knowledge into gold. Yeah, hot topics from the soul. Yeah, hot topics from the soul. Yeah, hot topics from the soul. Reaching all minds, turning knowledge into gold. Yeah, hot.
Hello and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker Hagan, and I'm so glad to be here. This month we have been celebrating our kings. I have my co-host with me.
And good evening and welcome back. And we are excited. The month of June has been a great month, a month in which we have acknowledged men, celebrating men. We've talked about positioning men financially, and we talk about family. We're talking about men's health. And we're excited tonight because, boy, we're going to go back to where the beginning. That's when we talk about family first. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, Dr. J. I am so excited. And I have with us a special guest, DMarco Musa. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm telling you, I'm so excited about you because of the fact that we just clicked over a month ago. We just clicked in the spirit, and we've been celebrating our kings all month. And I thought about you, and ironically, I reached out to you, and you were dropping off your children, your wife, and everything. And I said, we're going to talk about family first, what it is to be the head of the household. You're an entrepreneur. You have your own company that has, generated thousands of dollars for individuals, and you are known as the conversion guy. Well, tell us about that.
Yeah, so what I basically do is I help people who have an online presence generate more, sales and income into their businesses, whether they be coaches or course creators or consultants or people who sell physical, products, e-commerce and stuff like that. I just help them get more business.
Awesome. So we're talking about family, and
Yes.
you're from the Bahamas.
Yeah, born and raised in the Bahamas, Nassau, Bahamas.
Okay, Nassau. And how old were you when you came to the U.S.?
I was a teenager. I was 15. And then so I started high school in the Bahamas and I finished high school over there. So it was like a very interesting transition for me. Big culture shock. But yeah, I came here when I was 15.
Awesome. One of the things that, when I talk to, men of greatness like yourself is, everybody has a story. Yeah. Everybody has a beginning, and then they have a dash in between. Yeah. Tell us about your beginning and, how it came for you to be who you are, okay. DMarco Musa, and a family man.
So in the beginning, there was a light. No, so how it all started was, and for as interesting as this is going to sound, I come from a family with money, but I didn't grow up with money. So like I was around like my uncle, who was a commercial airline pilot. He was like the top of the top captain of our country's national flag carrier, right? Mm-hmm. So and then an aunt of mine was she was like a big thing at the airline as well. So I seen people in my close family. For instance, just to give you a quick background, I'm the black sheep of my family, right? I got a cousin who is a dentist. I have a cousin who is a registered nurse. I got a cousin who's an attorney. I'm talking about first cousins. All of my first cousins, who's an attorney. I got a cousin who's a gourmet chef who went to Johnson and Wales. I have a cousin who is he passed, but he had a PhD. He was actually a professor at Temple University, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm the one who who didn't get the big degree and all of that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to go and do this entrepreneurial thing. And so I seen that, and I wanted more out of life, and partly because about me not getting degrees, my mother couldn't afford it. Like I said, I seen people around me and my family with money, but we just didn't have it. So my mother couldn't afford to send me off to school and pay that and all that kind of stuff. And then that really made me want to be closer to family. And I always wanted to have, the white picket fence and the house and all that kind of stuff, because I didn't grow up with my father. So I always said that whenever, I never want to bring a child into this world to feel what I felt growing up, that emptiness, that void. And that's why, I always tell everybody, I hustle for my last name, not my first. I got to make sure my kids is good. The Bible says that a good man put up an inheritance for
their children and their children's children.
Absolutely. And that's what my goal is. It's bigger than me. So that's why I got to get it.
It's interesting, and Dr. J can chime in, that you said that you didn't have an education, but you had a drive, you had a desire, you have a will. And, that speaks to a lot of men who feel inadequate because they don't have a degree, but they're making it. And, I like the fact that you brought that up, because we're celebrating our kings. And actually, you should be celebrated every day, because we rely on you to be who you are. We rely on you to be the protectors, the provider for us. And, a degree doesn't mean an end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, go ahead.
No, and definitely I wanted to chime on what Dr. Val was saying, because, time has changed throughout. If we really look at the landscape, specifically this country here, in the early days, when most jobs was actually, if you would, blue collar workers,
Yes.
people out there, working by hand, working by trade, people who worked in the factories for years, they retired with pensions and all of those things there. In post-war period, we became more driven by degrees, and we had to have degrees in order to do those things there. And what's happened now is that we're almost at a different place now, where we understand the drive for entrepreneurship, the drive to be creators, the drive to be able to do things unconventionally is there. So what does it say to us? We know today that you can have a PhD today, but no JOB tomorrow, especially if you don't have the drive and have the right connection. Yeah. But by the same token, if you have vision, you have drive, you have what I call a constitution that gives you some foundation, and that becomes your why. And it sounds like to me you found your why, although you saw everyone else doing what they did. Your why lifted you above the limitations of what you didn't have in the form of paper.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. What's funny is one of my first cousins, one of the ones who went to, college, she went to Fisk, actually. She graduated from Fisk. And she was telling me, this is as an adult, in our adult lives, and I would have never guessed as a millionaire. She was telling me, you know what? I was always jealous of you growing up. And I'm thinking, you're the privileged one. You were going, across seas, and you were in China at 10 years old. Like, are you jealous of me? She was like, because you were always so smart. I was like, wow, that's so interesting. Like, you never know what people think, and how you just staying focused and trying to do what you want to do or destined to do, like, affects other people. And that just was so interesting and mind-boggling to hear her tell me that, the college graduate who is, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. I felt like I was doing something with my life at that point.
We're inspired by many different things, right? Sometimes we're inspired because of what we see, and sometimes we're inspired by what we don't see. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're inspired by the encouragement. Other times we're inspired by the no's, and it just depends. There are a lot of times when we have adversity or people have told us, no, we can't, no, we can't. Something about the inner core, what's inside of us, it awakens it. And there's that need to prove, but yes, I can. But yes, I can. Because the person who have drive, the person who have initiative, the person who is motivated and willing to be disciplined, they're able to rise above the, if you would, the objections of life, the
Yeah.
rejections of life, and even able to rise above adversity. In other words, it becomes like a dog whistle. When you tell me no, that just makes me more determined
That's
to
the
be able to
fire.
do so.
That's the
And that's
fuel to
what
the fire.
happens there. So you're not defined by what limitations that people put in front of you. You're only defined by the limitation that you put on yourself.
Absolutely. And that's why I try to teach my children the same thing. That like I want you to be greater than me. Like you can do anything, everything that you want to do. Like I really instill that into their heads, because I see a lot of the people that are respected, whether they be entrepreneurs or your entertainers or your athletes. Most of these people, their parents was drilling that into their heads their entire life, that you can do this, you can be the greatest, you can. And for instance, I drive around and they find it boring, but they don't even know what I'm doing to them. I drive around, I'm listening to Les Brown and stuff in my car while I'm taking them to school, or we go into my mom's house, so I'm taking them to the park, and they're like, "Daddy, can you play music? I'll play music later, but for right now, Daddy's need to listen to this." But what I'm really doing is I'm listening to it, but they get that secondhand inspiration, that secondhand knowledge, and that's what it's all about.
And that's so important that you're doing that, because it's so much toxicity that our children are exposed to. That you have the television, you have the music, then they go to school, and then different children have different lifestyles, and they can influence your child. But if you lay that foundation, it will give them something to grow into, to decipher what's right and what's wrong. Was your father involved in your life?
Not as much. Like I knew him. I won't say he was a total stranger, but we never lived in the same house. I would go over to his house. Sometimes I would spend like weeks at his house. Sometimes like during the summer and stuff. But like he wasn't there, right? And so and then and that put me in a strange position too, because I wanted the male figure. Like he didn't teach me how to ride a bicycle, like these kind of things. So I started hanging out with like the older boys in my neighborhood. And some of these kids were getting in trouble, but I don't know. They always, for some reason, would shield me. They would be like, no, Marco, go back in the house. Like, no, Marco, no, go back home. Like I don't know. I don't know. All I could say was something divine, but they would never let me rip and run with them. They always send me back home. I guess because so let me say this. I did grow up in church, and maybe since they know I was a church boy as well, they know you're not supposed to be out here with us, DeMarco. You need to go back home.
Dr. J, you're muted for some reason.
Yeah.
It's amazing that your friends and those individuals had your back based upon understanding your conviction of what you stood for. And the fact that even if they were doing something that they thought would not be good for you, or doing something of that nature, they was willing to, if you would, protect you, to shelter you from it. And that just speaks volumes even within itself, because whether we believe it or not, that's part of a village. That's part of that village that is still looking out for you.
Yeah.
And moving forward, being that your father wasn't present and active in your life, I hear so many men say, that they're unable to function and move forward and be productive in life because they didn't grow out with a father, and they didn't have any male figures around them. So they use that as an excuse. And I tell people, I said, my children didn't grow up with their father. We got divorced when they were between 8 and 14 years old. And I said, and they're all successful. And matter of fact, my sons are great men. They're providers for their sons, and they participate in their lives. So it's so easy, I find, for not just men, but individuals to have a cop out. Oh, well, mama didn't do this and mama didn't do that, and dad wasn't there and he didn't do this. But we all have the ability to choose. And what was your aha moment that caused you to choose?
Honestly, I would see how people would treat my mother. And I always wanted to protect my mother. And I always wanted to make sure that no one would treat me like that. Like I built up this tough skin because I seen how people treat my mother. I seen my mother cry way too many times in my life, right?
Mm.
And so either stuff that it could have been a lot of things. It could have been something that she called my father needing something, and he said either he ain't got it or he just wasn't gonna do it or what have you. I don't know what the situations were, but I just seen my mom cry too much, and I also seen my mom get used a lot. Like people who she hasn't talked to in years, family members, right? It could be distant, like third and fourth cousins, or an old friend from 20 years ago, and she would just bring them into the house if they're down on their luck, and then they would just use her, and then when it's time for them to go, they just leave. She won't hear from them no more. I didn't see so many people come in and out of our house, and because my mother has a pure heart, so she was doing it from pure love. But the way I looked at it, it was like these people are just getting over on you. So I say that to say, that was my aha moment. That was my I got to make something. I got to make something of myself, and I got to help mommy. And to this day, I still strive that I got to buy mommy a house. I still got to buy mommy a house, right? So that's where it started, to see the treatment of my mother.
And how did you start your company?
So just weirdly enough, I was in a position where I had got fired from my job. I was struggling to find a new job. And then I just haphazardly found out about this internet stuff. Like someone on, I think Facebook or something was talking about they're making money on the internet. I was like, what is this? And then I was like, how can I do it too? And then I found out that they're spending money on ads and they're, selling and promoting products and services. I'm like, I don't have the money. What can I do to get in? And I found out what you can do is you can write, you can craft the messages, the words, the emails, the website copy, and people will pay you for that. And so what I did was I always learned that don't start from the bottom, try to start from the top. So instead of me trying to find people on my level who trying to figure out business, I went to the guys who making millions of dollars already. And I'm like, hey, listen, if I could help you make some more money in your business without you having to pay me a single dime, would you let me do it? And the answer 10 out of 10 was yeah, because they ain't got nothing to lose. So I started writing emails and websites and stuff for them, and I started writing this stuff, and I started giving it to them, and it starts working. And then when they come back now, the first time was a sample. Now can we do something to work it out so this makes sense for both of us?
Right.
And then they start telling their friends, and their friends tell their friends, and their friends tell their friends, and then it just kind of turned into a snowball effect. And that's how it all got started. I had no plans on getting into marketing, nothing like that.
Wow. So isn't that amazing? Your adverse situation drove you to doing something that you didn't even have on your radar at all.
Right. I liked writing, and I liked, the idea of sales, because I did some phone sales and stuff at past jobs, and I was like, I can sell stuff, and I started studying on YouTube, and it's actually so funny how life works, because some of the guys who I would find on the internet, and I would buy their products, their DVDs, because this is way back when, right? I would buy their DVDs and stuff. Some of these guys are good friends of mine now. A lot of these guys are good friends of mine.
Wow.
I can call their cell phones, or if I see them at an event or something, we go, hey man, what's up? How you been? How's the wife? How's the kids? And it's so amazing how fast forward how things work.
That's great. And one of the things you said was you invested in yourself.
Yes.
You didn't have no pity party and said, okay, what's the next move? You wanted to be able to invest in yourself and learn from someone that is doing what it is you want to do and is good at it. You know, a lot of men have great ideas, but they're stuck because somebody told them that they couldn't. And they sit parked, stuck in life. But you caused a shift to happen in your life. You found out what your why was to bring forth the manifestation of what needed to be.
Yeah. I've been stubborn my whole life. And so that stubbornness has actually worked out to my advantage, because if something doesn't go my way, I can't figure out why. Like, why this doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why that this isn't working out the way it's supposed to work out. So I got to figure it out because I can't quit.
Right.
Like, I have to figure out how to make this work because I cannot give up. And that's where,
It's a fight to the bitter end.
Yeah. My mother instilled it
if
into
you
me.
keep pressing forward, and because you fail your way to success.
Yes.
You just because you start something and you fail doesn't mean, okay, this is what my journey, this isn't the way I need to go. You have to keep pressing forward so that you can get to the end result. And so many people lose faith, they lose hope because it doesn't look like what it should in the beginning. But if they would just keep their eyes focused on what the end result, what that is that they're trying to reach for, regardless of what it feels like, because sometimes it's not going to feel good. Rejections.
Yeah.
No matter what it looks like, oh, my bank account's looking pretty bad.
Yep.
But just knowing that this is your journey and your purpose, if once you define your purpose, then it's going to work because this is your assignment in life. And I want you to speak to those that may be going through this journey, they're in limbo and saying, I've tried and I failed. I've tried and I failed. How do I shift? How do I cause that shift? And Dr. J, maybe you can chime in on that as well.
Absolutely.
One thing I would say to anybody out there who may be going through something, a trial, tribulation, a peril of life, I just want to let you know we all go through it. It's never smooth sailing and peaches and cream for any of us. From the most successful of us to the one who's struggling to find it the most. It's never an easy road. Everyone is going to have their trials and tribulations. I also want to let you know, develop your vision, because that's the difference between where you are and where you're going. If you only can see in front of you, you can see, you have sight. But if you can see far in front of you, then you have vision, right? If you look at an apple and all you see is one apple, that's sight. But if you can see that it's a possible orchard if I do the right things and plant these seeds over this field, then that's vision. And once you can get your vision fine-tuned, then nothing can stop you, because no matter what the circumstances are or any obstacles in your way, you're going to figure out a way to get past it because you see the bigger picture. You see the 40,000-foot view. And that's what I want to share with you. Don't give up. It's going to get hard, but it's all worth it. Don't give up.
Wow. Would you say that many people they reach their conclusion too early because of their current situation that they're facing? Because when you're dealing with your current situation, it can look very bleak, right?
Yeah.
Because say, for instance, for you lost your job, whether you lost or you got fired or whatever. In that immediate moment, the first thing you start thinking about is when the next bill is due. How am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that? And so often, so much attention is focused on that it prevents you, I call it eclipses you from being able to see beyond that moment. Many of us make desperate decisions, oftentimes based upon what we're dealing with right now.
Yes.
Unable to see beyond this moment, because once again, adversity does introduce us to ourselves. No matter how smooth life gets, the cycle of becoming uncomfortable has to come around again, or there's no growth.
Yes.
There's a danger in comfortability. Danger in comfortability. I find myself getting too comfortable where I am. And what I realize is that when you get too comfortable where you are, you'll do greater harm to yourself on the long term.
Yes.
But when you are willing to be uncomfortable for a season in order to get to where you need to be, then guess what? Then that's when you establish something greater.
Yes.
Too often, we forfeit the ultimate for the immediate.
Absolutely. I like that a lot. And just to piggyback off of that, like you said about being uncomfortable, if you go to the gym every day and you work out and you lift weights, I used to be an avid gym here. I need to get back into it, but that's another story for another day. If you're in the gym and you lifting and you sweating and you working, it's uncomfortable, but that's going to extend your health. It's going to extend your life. It's going to make you more flexible, make you more, pliable and everything like that. And for the long run. And if you super comfortable and you don't go work out and you don't go exercise, you don't get any movement, you don't get any circulation, then that just causes atrophy. And now you can't even use those muscles like you used to, like they're designed to be used, because you're too comfortable. And that's a perfect analogy that you just gave. I really appreciate that. I like that.
Well, I like what you said too, because in fact, I know it's like to take those long breaks from the gym, right? When you take those long breaks, and the longer you take the break, the harder it is to get back into it. And you talked about something that was so important, is developing this the atrophy. And so what happens is that what people don't understand, that sometimes we develop what I call intellectual atrophy.
Absolutely. Your mind is a muscle.
And what happens, we're no longer working. Our mind is not working like it used to. So many things are not working like it used to, because the danger of comfortability is that it doesn't cause you nothing. It don't causes you to stretch. It don't causes you to use anything that you have. And that's the message we have to constantly tell ourselves. And this is what I believe. I believe that's why positive talk around you is so important. I believe that's why it's so important to speak life and to have life spoken over you, and not to run from the very things that are the most important tools to get us to where we need to go. I go back to one of my favorite quotes by Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn talks about discipline, and discipline is so important. And it's true. In life, we will all face one or two constant pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is the pain of discipline weighs ounces, while the pain of regret weighs tons. We just have to choose which one we're willing to deal with.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is so powerful. People want things handed to them on a platter, and they're sitting around waiting for that ship to come in, if you will. And if our wealth is based on our ability to think, what are we thinking about? Oh, you thinking about women? You thinking about who you can rip off? Or are you thinking about how I can leave an inheritance? Or are you thinking about how I can provide for my family? What are you thinking about? If your wealth is based on your ability to think, where is your mindset? We want money. Everybody wants money, but you have to work to get it. We have all these people that just want to blow up and let everything happen overnight, but it's a process. Life is a journey. And you have to put in on that journey. You got to sow into yourself, invest in yourself, like you said, DeMarco, that people need to do, because that's what you did. And you're constantly ever learning, evolving. Technology is always evolving.
Absolutely. I was talking to some guys earlier about some AI stuff, and they mentioned a term. And I was like, "What's that?" I had to go on YouTube and start looking up, and I didn't watch. I'm about 7 videos deep now.
Wow.
You got to learn. You got to never stop learning, because once you stop learning, you stop growing. Once you stop growing, you start dying. You just got to keep going, or you're going backwards.
And how can people find you on the website to learn more about who you are? They're listening, and they're knowing a little bit about who you are and why you walk in the integrity that you walk in. But what can they find when they go to your website, and what is that?
Yeah. So Your Conversion Company is where I help people to increase their conversion rates, right? So there's a lot of people that are very good at what they do. They're just not very versed on how to sell it effectively. So that's what I help people do. And they can go and they can see, a little information about me, a little bit about my background, some of the people that I've helped to turn their businesses around and do some, extreme growth. And if anybody wants to contact me, they can either contact me on Facebook, DeMarco Musa. I'm on there, not all the time, but when I see you, I'll reach back out. Or they can email me. They can email at support@Your Conversion Company. Right there. Conversion, like, convert like Jews and Christians, conversion. Let's make conversion company.
You conversion people to make money.
Yeah.
Well, I love it because see, that word conversion is the second cousin of transformation, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, in order to transform, there must be a conversion somewhere along the line.
Yes, sir.
And I think that, when I listen to you, you think about how many times that we are our worst enemy inside of being able to convert.
Yes, sir.
How many times did we continue to reference our failures rather than our victories? How many
self-sabotage.
How many times that we focus on where we got stuck? We focus on when we failed. We focus on those things, but we don't focus on how I got up and what I could do when I get up. We don't focus on those things there. So we tend to make the failure or the disappointment, we tend to make it permanent rather than to see that it's only really a stepping stone. It's an opportunity to go further, to go up. And I love what you're talking about, conversion, because when we travel to other countries and we travel to different places, sometimes we have to go and we have to get our money converted. In order to be able to use it, we have to get a conversion there. And sometimes our ideas are powerful. They just haven't had the conversion that it needs to do what it needs to do for us. And that's where you come in, because you're able to you're not giving them a new business. You're just being able to convert it to a way in which it's able to speak louder to other people.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And that's great. I'm going to use that. I appreciate you.
Okay, there. All right. So the first one is free. We can talk later.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah, DeMarco, the show is family first, and I know you're a family man, and so many times we have men, and we're celebrating our kings, as I say, that say it's so hard to juggle my family and my business or work, you being an entrepreneur, but then there is individuals that have 9 to 5 and then they have work after the 9 to 5, and they were like, I can't but I can't be involved in my children's life. I can't, be there for my wife because I'm trying to do this work. So talk about that and how, if you can give individuals some tips on balancing that, because it can be done.
It can be done. What I would suggest to anybody out there who struggles with this is you need to weigh what's important to you. And here's what I mean. You could spend all your time, every waking moment, working on getting successful or building a business or making money or what have you, right? Even if you have a job, you can go to work and work all the overtime in the world, come home completely exhausted, take a shower, go to sleep, and wake up and do it again, right? You can do that. But what's important to you? If you make all the money in the world, but then your children don't know you, even worse, your children don't like you, or even worse, your wife leaves you, then what was all that worth?
Wow.
Right? You got to figure out what's important to you, not what's important to you at this second, what's important to you in the long haul, where you want to be. You want to be, with your family in 5 and 10 years from today, or you want to be living, sitting on a big cash cushion by yourself in a big house empty. Right? You got to really weigh what's important to you and then move accordingly. And that's my best advice. It's very possible. I sacrifice a lot of things in order to build this and spend time with my children. Is it easy? Absolutely not. But what in life that's worthwhile is easy? Not much I can think of. So, like, I would rather live richly than be financially rich, but inside I'm poor and inside I'm destitute, because I've seen that a lot. I personally know a lot of self-made millionaires, and I can tell you from personal experience, a lot of them ain't happy. A lot of them live in these big houses by themselves.
Alone.
And
afraid to invite love in because they feel someone is going to take something from them or dismantle them from where they are. So they sit there on their pile of dough.
Exactly. I saw one guy on Facebook like a while back talking about, because he had just got divorced and his wife took the kids and left. They went to another state or something like that. And he was talking about how he's sitting in this big house crying himself to sleep at night. I don't want that.
Wow.
I do not want that. That don't sound like something I want to sign up for.
Wow.
Well, the family is such an important part of who we are. And whether we recognize it now or later, at the end of the day, it gives us definition. It gives us meaning. Legacy is something powerful. Yeah. At the end of the day, you want to be able to leave more than brick and mortar. You want to be able to leave more than that. You want to be able to leave the footprints and the imprints of
memories,
having had relationship, being able to create, if you would, generational wealth and in vision. And I think in turn to that, sometimes we have to have a real conversation with ourselves or allow ourselves to hear a real message concerning where we're going. It goes back to the old thing. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Yes. It profits you very little. So putting it back in order, I think it's very important, putting it back into perspective, and it opens itself up to a deeper conversation too on both ends, because there are those that are looking for all those other things, but they're depleted of love. And just the same that there are folks that have so much love to give and just haven't learned how to figure it out as far as being able to create finance and generate wealth. Somewhere along the line, you got to be willing to do the work that you can enjoy the both of both worlds, and not at the sacrifice of the one thing that lasts forever, and that's the legacy of your family.
Absolutely. And that's what I believe an abundant life is all about, not a dollar amount.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's a powerful statement in and of itself. And,
Yes.
I'm so glad that, you had the opportunity to join and also to share and empower, our men, and I'm sure some women were empowered and inspired by you, and knowing that there's more like you out there that are willing to put in the work and to show love and appreciate the queens that we have here. So
Yes,
I do
absolutely.
appreciate you being here to celebrate with us. Any closing remarks?
I just for being here, and I just thank you. It's such a blessing and a pleasure. And I'd be willing to come back anytime. I love talking to you. And nice to meet you as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's and we click too. So yeah, I'd love
Absolutely. Yourconversioncompany.com. I got it written down.
Thank you.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. And I invite individuals to visit your website, www.yourconversioncompany.com. That's CONVERSION, conversion company that converges you into your greatness and a larger and greater version of yourself. And I invite you to subscribe to Hot Topics from the Soul. Thank you. And if this has been a blessing, share it with one of the kings in your life. Peace and blessings.